You walk into a store, grab a snack, tap your phone, and the machine says approved. That's it. No gold, no coins, no tiny accountant sprinting through the wall. Just one beep, and invisible numbers move from you to someone else. But this tiny beep has a history so strange, it goes all the way back to shells, cows, temples, pirates, banks, plastic cards, and digital coins that do not physically exist. Because the weird truth is this: money is not really the paper, the coin, or the number on your screen. Money is an agreement. It only works because enough people believe the same thing at the same time. That sounds fake until you realize almost everything around you runs on shared belief. A country, a brand, a game currency, even a queue at a restaurant. Money is just the most powerful shared belief humans ever invented. But how did humans get here? How did we go from trading animals and shells to tapping phones and sending invisible money across the planet? To understand that, you have to go back to a time before wallets, before banks, before cash registers, and before someone could say, "Sorry, my card declined," and ruin the mood. Before money, people still traded, shared, gifted, borrowed, and remembered favors. In a small village, that could work. You give your neighbor fish today, and maybe next week they help fix your roof. You help someone harvest grain, and later they share food with you. Not everything was a direct trade. People had relationships, memories, and trust. But as groups grew bigger, this got messy fast. Imagine you have a chicken, and you want shoes. So you walk up to the shoemaker and say, "Can I trade this chicken for shoes?" And the shoemaker says, "I hate chickens." Already, your economy has collapsed because the shoemaker does not want chicken. He wants grain.
So now you go to the grain farmer, but the grain farmer does not want chicken either. He wants a goat. So now you go to the goat owner, but the goat owner wants a blanket, and the blanket maker wants fish. Suddenly, buying shoes becomes a side quest with livestock. And this was the problem. For trade to work smoothly, both people had to want what the other person had at the same time. That is very inconvenient. So humans started using things that many people already wanted: shells, salt, grain, cattle, cloth, metal. These were not random. They worked because people trusted they could use them again later. Grain could feed you. Cattle could work, produce milk, and reproduce. Salt helped preserve food. Shells were small, portable, and easy to recognize. Metal was strong, useful, and lasted a long time. Slowly, certain objects became more than objects. They became a bridge between what you had now and what you wanted later. If everyone in your area accepted shells, then shells were not just beach decorations anymore. They were money. If everyone accepted salt, then salt was not just something you put on food. It was money. That is actually where the word salary is connected to salt, because for a long time, salt was extremely valuable. Which is funny, because today if someone tried to pay you with a bag of salt, you would probably call the police. But early money had problems. Cows are valuable, but terrible in your pocket. Grain can rot, salt can dissolve, shells can be copied if everyone finds the same beach. And metal is useful, but someone has to check its weight and quality every single time. So every trade still had a little suspicion inside it. Is this metal pure? Is this grain good? Is this cow healthy? Is this shell money, or did someone just go on vacation?
Humans needed something easier, something portable, something countable, something people could trust quickly. Then came one of money's biggest upgrades: coins. A coin was not just metal, it was metal with a stamp of trust. The stamp said, "Someone powerful says this piece has value." Now people did not need to weigh every chunk of metal like suspicious goblins. They could look at the coin, recognize the mark, and accept it. Coins were portable, durable, countable, and much harder to fake than random pieces of metal. Suddenly, markets could move faster. Soldiers could be paid. Taxes could be collected. Trade could stretch farther than one village. You could sell goods in one place, carry coins to another place, and buy something completely different. That may sound normal now, but at the time, it was a huge upgrade. A tiny stamped object made strangers trust each other just enough to trade. And once humans had that, they did what humans always do. They made everything bigger. Ships crossed oceans, merchants crossed deserts, cities grew, markets became louder, richer, and more chaotic. But carrying lots of coins created a new problem. Coins are heavy. If you were a merchant carrying a huge bag of silver, congratulations, you were now a walking treasure chest with shoes. Every bandit on the road looked at you like a free side quest. So the next version of money had to solve a new problem. How do you move value without moving the heavy thing itself? The answer was paper. And at first, paper money was not valuable because paper was special. Paper is not rare. You can draw a dragon on it and still not buy a sandwich. Paper money worked because it was a promise. It said, this paper represents value stored somewhere else. Instead of carrying metal everywhere, you could carry a note. That note was lighter, easier, and way less likely to destroy your back.
At first, this probably felt suspicious. Imagine someone saying, "Do not worry, this paper is worth gold." And you say, "Really?" And they say, "Yes, because we promise." And you say, "That sounds dangerous." And they say, "Welcome to finance." But the idea worked because it was useful. If people trusted the promise, then the paper could move like money. And this is where money started becoming less physical. A coin had value partly because of its metal. A paper note had value because of what it represented. It was not the thing itself. It was a symbol of the thing. And once humans accepted that, money could become lighter, faster, and stranger. Then banks turned this promise into a system. A bank was basically a trust machine with a very serious desk. You could store money in one place, borrow money from another, and use written records to prove who owed what. You gave the bank value. The bank wrote it down. Someone else borrowed value. They promised to return more later, and the bank wrote that down too. This sounds boring, but it changed the world, because money was no longer only about what existed right now. It became about what people believed would happen in the future. That is the basic idea behind debt and credit. Debt means you use value now and promise to repay it later. Credit is the trust that your promise is good. So in simple terms, credit is belief in future you, which is scary because future you has seen your online shopping cart. But credit could do powerful things. It could help build houses, start businesses, fund ships, open shops, pay workers before the profit arrived. But it could also go wrong, because if too many promises were made and too many people stopped believing them, the whole system could shake. Money was becoming less like treasure and more like a giant web of promises.
Then, as nations grew, paper money became more official. Governments printed bills. Banks issued notes. Factories made cash in huge sheets, covered with symbols, portraits, numbers, and tiny details to stop fakes. But notice what changed. A coin had value because of metal and trust. A bill had almost no material value. The paper itself was not worth much. Its power came from the system behind it. The paper was thin. The belief behind it was enormous. And then money got even stranger. Instead of handing over paper, you handed over a plastic card. The card itself was not money. It was a key. When you swiped it, dipped it, or tapped it, the card sent a message. The message basically said, "Ask my bank if I can pay." Somewhere far away, computers checked the request, approved it, and updated records. You did not move coins. You did not move paper. You moved permission. That is what makes modern payments feel like magic. You buy something in a store, and in seconds, banks, card networks, computers, and records all quietly agree that money has moved. No one pushes a wheelbarrow of cash across town. No tiny banker jumps out of the machine. It is just messages, trust, and updated numbers. Online banking made this even faster. Now your money could live as numbers in an app. You could move it between accounts while sitting in bed wearing one sock. Digital wallets made it feel instant. Tap a phone, scan a code, send money to a friend, buy a game skin, order food, pay a bill. Behind the smooth screen, banks and payment networks are still doing the old job. They keep records of who owns what, who paid whom, and who trusts the update. So even though the technology looks futuristic, the core idea is ancient. People agreed that the record matters. Then came cryptocurrency, which asked a wild question. What if money did not one bank in the middle? Instead of one trusted notebook, what if a network of computers shared the notebook together? Each computer helps check the record. The system tries to make sure everyone agrees on what happened. That does not mean crypto will replace all money.
It does not mean every digital coin is useful, and it definitely does not mean every coin with a dog picture is the future of civilization. But crypto shows how far the idea of money has stretched. From shells you can hold, to coins you can count, to paper promises, to bank records, to plastic cards, to numbers and apps, to money that exists as shared data. Money kept becoming less physical, less heavy, less visible, and more dependent on trust. So when you tap your phone today, you are not just making a payment, you are using the latest version of an ancient human trick. A shell was not just a shell, a coin was not just metal, a bill was not just paper, a card was not just plastic, and the number in your banking app is not just a number. They all work because people agree to treat them as real. Money is a shared illusion, but not a weak one. It is an illusion powerful enough to build cities, launch ships, start wars, buy snacks, and run the world. So the next time you tap your phone and hear that tiny beep, remember what just happened. Thousands of years of human belief passed through your hand in 1 second. From cattle to coins, from paper to plastic, from ledgers to glowing screens. And somehow, everyone around you still agrees. Yes, that counts.